What would you say if I tell you there is a war going on in our generation, a war that most people are so blind to see it? The elite are working so hard to actually wipe one group of people from the Earth's surface. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They are winning. Look around you and try to compare life with how it was 20 years ago. The whole system has took a dramatic shift in the lives of the middle-class citizens, and here we are working as many hours as we can, and yet, whatever we earn is never enough. Let me ask you this right here. Why do you think the elites are planning to wipe the middle-class citizens? I tell you why, and that's because the middle-class citizen is the one who is ready anytime to start revolution against any power regime. Do you guys know why I call this a war the middle-class citizens blind to see? That's because we are always distracted with what we see and hear. The majority of the middle-class citizens have 70% of their days largely distracted and occupied with entertainments. This include phones, music, sports, movies. And that's exactly what the elites would want to see us doing. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have 20 reasons why this war is happening in our generation. Number 1. Power. The middle-class citizen we have in this day and age is like the lion with no teeth. We have no power, just an image. The erosion of the middle class's power is a multifaceted issue rooted in economic shifts and policy changes. Decades of wage stagnation despite rising productivity have squeezed their financial stability, while the increasing cost of essential services like healthcare, education, and housing consumes a larger portion of their income. Tax policies that are perceived to favor corporations and the wealthy, coupled with a decline in unionization and worker protections, have further diminished their economic leverage. Consequently, this economic vulnerability translates to a reduced political influence, as their priorities may be overshadowed by the concerns of wealthier individuals and corporations who have greater resources to lobby and shape policy decisions. This leaves the middle class feeling increasingly marginalized and powerless in a system that once seemed to prioritize their well-being. Number 2, the buy more and work more culture, or simply consumerism. Consumerism significantly impacts the working class by creating a constant pressure to accumulate material possessions, which can lead to debt, increased work hours, and a focus on material desires over other aspects of life. This pressure is fueled by advertising that subtly promotes the idea that happiness is achieved through consumption. Working-class individuals, often facing financial constraints, may be more vulnerable to this pressure, potentially resulting in a cycle of debt and overwork to meet material aspirations. The pursuit of consumer goods can also shift focus away from other aspects of well-being, such as relationships and personal growth, and contribute to feelings of inadequacy or the need to constantly keep up with the Joneses. While consumer spending drives economic activity for the middle class, it can also create financial vulnerabilities and a sense of never quite having enough, and this impacts their overall financial health and psychological well-being. We all need to understand this. If we are consumers, then we are slaves to the producer. We are buying something to get a little pleasure in life, so how is that different from using drugs then? Overall, that's what drugs do to our life. They give us temporary pleasure. Number 3, stagnant wages. Middle-class wages have not kept pace with inflation and the rising cost of living for decades. I remember 8 years ago getting paid $40 an hour was considered as pretty good amount of money, but look at it right now, it's $80K per year, which is nothing glamorous about it. Middle-class wages often fall short of providing true financial security due to the escalating costs of essential needs outpacing income growth. While wages may have seen some nominal increases over time, these gains are frequently eroded by significant rises in expenses such as housing, healthcare, education, and childcare, leaving less disposable income for savings, investments, or unexpected costs. Furthermore, stagnant wage growth in many sectors, coupled with the decline of traditional middle-skill jobs, and the increasing burden of household debt, means that even with diligent budgeting, middle-class families find it increasingly challenging to maintain their standard of living, achieve upward mobility, or feel truly financially secure in the face of rising economic pressures. Number 4, increased tax burden. The overall tax burden on the middle class has increased when considering all forms of taxation, including income, consumption, and property taxes. An increased tax burden can disproportionately hurt middle-class citizens, because they often earn enough to be taxed at significant rates but lack the wealth and resources to utilize sophisticated tax avoidance strategies available to higher income brackets. This means a larger portion of their income is directed towards taxes, leaving less for essential expenses like housing, food, and healthcare, as well as for savings and investments crucial for long-term financial stability. Unlike lower-income individuals who may qualify for more substantial tax credits or social safety nets, and wealthier individuals who have greater flexibility in managing their tax obligations, the middle class often bears the brunt of tax increases, potentially hindering their ability to improve their living standards and achieve economic advancement. Number 5. Erosion of benefits. There has been a decline in employer-sponsored benefits like pensions and comprehensive healthcare, shifting more costs onto the middle class. The erosion of benefits traditionally associated with middle-class employment represents a significant challenge to their financial well-being. The decline in employer-sponsored health insurance, once a cornerstone of middle-class security, shifts greater healthcare costs onto families. Similarly, the phasing out of defined benefit pension plans in favor of less secure defined contribution plans places the burden of retirement savings and investment risks squarely on individuals. Reduced paid time off, fewer opportunities for professional development, and the stagnation of other workplace perks further diminish the overall value proposition of middle-class jobs, contributing to increased financial strain and a sense of declining economic security. Number 6. Rising cost of education. The cost of post-secondary education has skyrocketed, making it harder for middle-class families to afford higher education for their children without incurring significant debt. The relentless increase in the cost of education places a significant negative burden on middle-class citizens by creating a difficult barrier to upward mobility and financial stability. As tuition fees, accommodation, and other related expenses soar, middle-class families often find themselves caught in a precarious position. They may not qualify for substantial financial aid available to lower-income brackets, yet they lack the disposable income to comfortably afford these rising costs outright. This forces many to take on significant student loan debt, delaying crucial life milestones like homeownership and starting families, or to make difficult choices about which children can pursue higher education, ultimately exacerbating economic inequality within the middle class itself. Number 7. Increased healthcare costs. Rising premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses place a significant financial strain on middle-class families. The escalating costs of healthcare disproportionately burden middle-class citizens, creating a constant source of financial anxiety and potential economic hardship. Unlike lower-income individuals who may qualify for subsidized care and wealthier individuals who can readily absorb higher expenses, the middle class often faces a challenging landscape of rising insurance premiums, high deductibles, and increasing out-of-pocket costs for essential medical services and prescription drugs. This can lead to difficult choices between seeking necessary medical attention and maintaining financial stability, potentially resulting in delayed or foregone care, the accumulation of medical debt, and a diminished sense of security, effectively eroding their hard-earned income and threatening their overall well-being. Number 8. Social engineering. Governments can employ social engineering techniques to subtly influence citizens' attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, often without overt coercion. This can involve strategically framing information through media outlets or public campaigns to shape public opinion on specific issues or policies. I remember the other day I was watching the news and came across one of the NBC News directors giving a speech about President Putin. That was normal until I noticed his previous job listed at the left corner of the TV and it was saying former CIA directives. I was like, what is a former CIA directive doing in the news media? Then I understood that by leveraging psychological principles, such as conformity and authority bias, governments can nudge citizens towards desired actions or viewpoints. And it was that day that I stopped watching the news. Furthermore, the use of data analytics and targeted messaging allows for personalized influence, potentially reinforcing existing biases or creating new ones. While often presented as public service or information dissemination, these methods can raise concerns about manipulation and the erosion of individual autonomy if not transparently and ethically implemented. Everything is a lie, a big lie. In short, they create the narratives and they control the narratives. Number 9. Decline of manufacturing jobs. The shift towards a service-based economy and globalization have led to a decline in well-paying manufacturing jobs traditionally held by the middle class. The rise of unemployment among middle-class citizens signifies a worrying trend of economic instability and insecurity for a significant portion of the population. Job losses in traditionally stable sectors, driven by factors like automation, globalization, and economic downturns, can lead to prolonged periods of unemployment for skilled workers who may struggle to find comparable replacement positions. This not only results in immediate income loss and financial strain but can also erode savings, increase debt, and negatively impact long-term financial security, including retirement prospects, thereby undermining the foundation of middle-class stability and potentially leading to downward mobility. Number 10. Precarious employment. The growth of the gig economy and contract work often lacks the security and benefits of traditional middle-class jobs. While side gig jobs can offer supplemental income, their increasing necessity for middle-class citizens often highlights underlying economic vulnerabilities. The reliance on multiple income streams suggests that primary employment may not provide sufficient financial stability, leading to increased time commitments, potential burnout, and a blurring of work-life boundaries. Furthermore, these gigs often lack the benefits and security associated with traditional employment, such as health insurance, retirement plans, and paid time off, creating a precarious financial situation and potentially hindering long-term financial planning and overall well-being for middle-class individuals who find themselves needing to constantly hustle to make ends meet. Number 11. Weakening of labor unions. A decline in union membership has reduced the collective bargaining power of middle-class workers to advocate for better wages and working conditions. The weakening of labor unions has had significant negative effects on middle-class citizens by diminishing their collective bargaining power and leading to reduced wages, benefits, and job security. Historically, unions played a crucial role in advocating for fair compensation, safe working conditions, and comprehensive benefits packages that helped build and sustain the middle class. As union membership declines, individual workers often lack the leverage to negotiate effectively with employers, resulting in stagnant or declining real wages, increased healthcare costs borne by employees, and a shift towards less secure employment arrangements, ultimately contributing to greater economic inequality and a weakening of the middle class's financial stability. Number 12. Insufficient minimum wage. The minimum wage in many areas is argued to be too low to provide a pathway to the middle class. While the minimum wage directly impacts lower-income workers, an insufficient minimum wage can indirectly harm middle-class citizens by depressing overall wage levels and increasing competition for entry-level and lower-skilled jobs that might otherwise provide a pathway to middle-class status. When a significant portion of the workforce earns a wage that necessitates public assistance, it places a greater tax burden on the middle class to support these social safety nets. Furthermore, a low minimum wage can stifle consumer spending, hindering economic growth and potentially impacting job creation in sectors that traditionally employ middle-class workers. By failing to provide a living wage floor, an insufficient minimum wage contributes to broader economic inequality and can limit opportunities for upward mobility, ultimately undermining the stability and growth of the middle class. Number 13. Housing affordability crisis. Rising housing costs in many urban areas make it difficult for middle-class families to afford to buy or even rent homes. The housing affordability crisis significantly impacts middle-class citizens by creating immense financial strain and limiting their economic opportunities. Skyrocketing housing costs, whether for purchasing or renting, consume a disproportionately large portion of their income, leaving less for other essential expenses, savings, and investments crucial for long-term financial security. This can lead to difficult choices about where to live, often forcing families to move further away from job centers, endure longer commutes, or live in smaller, less suitable accommodations. The dream of homeownership, a traditional marker of middle-class achievement, becomes increasingly unattainable, while the burden of high rents can stifle their ability to save for the future and build wealth, thus eroding the very foundation of middle-class stability and hindering their prospects for upward mobility. Number 14. Increased debt burden. Middle-class families often carry significant debt from mortgages, student loans, and credit cards. The increased debt burden carried by middle-class citizens acts as a significant drag on their financial well-being and economic progress. Mounting debt from mortgages, student loans, auto loans, and credit cards consumes a substantial portion of their monthly income, leaving less available for savings, investments, and discretionary spending that fuels the economy. This high debt-to-income ratio can make middle-class families more vulnerable to economic shocks, such as job loss or unexpected medical expenses, potentially leading to financial distress and hindering their ability to build wealth for retirement or future generations. The constant pressure of managing debt can also contribute to increased stress and reduced overall quality of life, undermining the sense of security traditionally associated with the middle class. Number 15. Tax policies favoring the wealthy. Critics point to tax cuts for corporations and high-income earners as evidence of policies that disproportionately benefit the wealthy at the expense of the middle class. Tax policies can be perceived as favoring the wealthy over the middle class through various mechanisms that create disparities in the effective tax rates and the ability to minimize tax obligations. Wealthy individuals often have access to sophisticated financial planning and legal strategies, including utilizing tax loopholes, investing in assets with preferential tax treatment like capital gains, and sheltering income through various deductions and credits that may not be readily available or as beneficial to those with more straightforward wage-based income. This can result in a situation where the middle class, whose income primarily comes from wages taxed at higher rates, bears a relatively larger share of the overall tax burden compared to their wealthier counterparts who can leverage complex financial instruments and tax advantage strategies to reduce their tax liability. Number 16. Deregulation. Reduced government oversight in various sectors is argued to have led to corporate practices that harm the middle class, such as environmental damage or financial instability. Deregulation can have complex and often negative effects on middle-class citizens by potentially prioritizing corporate interests over consumer and worker protections. Reduced oversight in industries like finance can lead to increased risk-taking that destabilizes the economy, jeopardizing middle-class savings and investments, as seen in past financial crises. Weakened environmental regulations can result in pollution and health issues that disproportionately affect middle-class communities. Furthermore, deregulation in labor markets can erode job security, depress wages, and diminish benefits, exacerbating income inequality and making it harder for middle-class families to maintain their standard of living and achieve financial stability. Number 17. Inflation. While not solely a policy decision, government responses to inflation can significantly impact the purchasing power of the middle class. Inflation significantly erodes the financial stability of middle-class citizens by diminishing their purchasing power. As the cost of everyday necessities like food, housing, energy, and healthcare rises faster than their wages, middle-class families find their hard-earned income buying less and less. This squeeze on their budgets can lead to difficult choices, forcing them to cut back on essential spending, delay important purchases, and reduce savings, thereby hindering their ability to achieve financial goals and increasing their vulnerability to economic shocks. The constant pressure of rising prices without commensurate increases in income creates a persistent sense of financial insecurity and can impede upward mobility for the middle class. Number 18. Austerity measures. Government policies aimed at reducing deficits through spending cuts can impact public services and employment that benefit the middle class. Austerity measures, implemented by governments to reduce budget deficits, often negatively impact middle-class citizens through cuts to public services they rely on, such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Reduced funding for schools can lead to larger class sizes and diminished quality of education, while cuts to healthcare may result in longer wait times and reduced access to necessary medical care. Decreased investment in infrastructure can lead to job losses in related sectors and hinder economic growth that could benefit the middle class. Additionally, public sector job cuts, a common component of austerity, can directly lead to unemployment for middle-class workers and reduce overall economic activity, further straining middle-class households and their financial security. Number 19. Employment insecurity. Job insecurity casts a long shadow over middle-class citizens, eroding the stability they once took for granted. The constant threat of job loss or underemployment fuels anxiety and stress, impacting mental and physical health, and straining family relationships. Financial planning becomes a precarious endeavor, hindering their ability to save for retirement, invest in their children's education, or even make long-term financial commitments like homeownership. This uncertainty can lead to a decline in consumer confidence, affecting the broader economy, and ultimately reshaping the aspirations and overall well-being of the middle class. Number 20. Public schools indoctrination. While often perceived as a cornerstone of opportunity, the reality of public education can present significant challenges for middle-class families. In many areas, underfunded and under-resourced public schools struggle to provide the individualized attention and enrichment opportunities that higher-income families can access through private education or supplementary resources. This can result in a widening achievement gap, potentially limiting the future educational and career prospects of middle-class children and creating pressure for families to shoulder additional educational expenses or consider relocating to areas with better-performing public schools, adding to their financial strain. Well, it's not easy to just pick some group of people and have them carry all the accountability on this matter, but there is one individual in particular, and we all should know about them. Do you want to know who this individual is? Do me a favor? Open your cell phone camera and turn the selfie mode, and right there, you are looking right at it. Yes, just like every one of us, you too are responsible for feeding the elite the system they desire to see on the middle-class citizens. I understand it's not really easy to get your eyes wide open to realize the hidden agenda of the system when we are young. As we grow up, however, we have all the time, the books, the information we need in this world to understand what's going on around the world, and yet, we still ignore the calls and we choose pleasure. We all get wake-up calls on a consistent basis, but because since the day we turn 18, we are so busy with thinking about hooking up with the opposite gender, having sex, movies, news, music, cell phones, parties, alcohol, studying, school debt, getting married, still looking for a side chick, having children, having mortgages, then working many hours, raising children, entertaining the children, keep the wife happy, keep your boss happy, work, 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 keep paying them bills, and before we even know it, we find ourselves in our mid-50s. An age where we are a handful of years away from retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, is that all life is about? Is this what actually life should be, or we are indoctrinated to subscribe to this lifestyle of slaves? That's why I said the elites are winning in their agenda. I always ask myself one question, and that is, what kind of world are we leaving behind for the next generation? A world that is fully indoctrinated to believe in the government as their savior, which is not even working, and yet people still not getting it. In the next 50 years, I definitely see the world as a place with people full of ignorance, lack of comprehension or understanding, too emotional, highly egoistic and self-centered individuals. Which is what the elites exactly would love to see. That way it's easy to put the middle-class citizens under control. I can clearly see the people in the future world where all the middle class turn against each other and see each other's enemies. The next 50 years are going to be the toughest half-century in the history of mankind. 50 years of really educated people would be worthless and low-pay individuals, whereas criminals will be respected, glorified, and be put in leadership positions. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, the end of our world and the beginning of a new world similar to the one in the sci-fi movie Idiocracy. Here are 5 ways middle-class citizens can collectively work to improve their standing and fight back the system. Support local and ethical businesses. By consciously choosing to spend their money at small, locally owned businesses and companies with fair labor practices, the middle class can redirect economic power away from large corporations that may prioritize profit over worker well-being and community investment. This strengthens local economies and encourages businesses to adopt more equitable practices. Engage in informed and collective political action. Participating actively in the political process, from local elections to national campaigns, and voting for candidates who champion middle-class interests is crucial. Furthermore, organizing and advocating for policies related to affordable healthcare, quality education, fair wages, and consumer protection amplifies their collective voice and puts pressure on the system. Foster community and cooperative initiatives. Creating or joining community-based initiatives, such as buying clubs, housing cooperatives, and community gardens, allows the middle class to pool resources and reduce individual costs for essential goods and services. This builds economic resilience and fosters a sense of collective self-reliance outside of traditional market structures. Prioritize financial literacy and responsible spending, educating themselves on personal finance, budgeting effectively, and making informed investment decisions can help middle-class families build wealth and security. Avoiding excessive debt and supporting financial institutions that prioritize community development over predatory practices further strengthens their financial standing. Organize and advocate for workers' rights. Supporting labor unions and advocating for policies that protect workers' rights, such as fair wages, safe working conditions, and collective bargaining, can significantly improve the economic well-being of the middle class. Collective action in the workplace provides a powerful platform to negotiate for better compensation and benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all victims. We are all indoctrinated since our childhood. But guess what? There is one thing that can make us the luckiest generation ever walked on Earth, and that is easily accessible information. We are all one click away from waking up and finding the truth about the real reality that is hidden right under our nose. Imagine 200 years ago, everything we have right now was considered as something that's only available in the afterlife or whatever. Since we are all victims, we all need to love and care for each other, which is what the elite would hate to see us doing. Let's stay united with each other and live a beautiful life happily. This is it for the day, guys. If you think this video is enlightening, please like and subscribe for YouTube algorithm and put whatever comment you have down below. Have a nice day, guys. I am out.